the previous video, I have shown you how to compose this function and evaluate it using the value 1, and we were able to come up with square root of 3 over 2 or 0.866. Let's see if that's really the case using our technology. So using the Desmos graphing calculator, this is our first function. Write it down, 3 over the square root of x plus 2, and our second function is 30 over x plus 2. If you are curious on what is the graph of the composed function, all we need to do is to type f of g of x. And this will be the composed function of our two graphs. So meaning to say, if I'm going to combine this function using f in terms of g, I will have this graph. And if I'm going to evaluate, you see, when we compose it with 1, if I'm going to evaluate g of 1, you would see that the value is 0.866, as simple as that. Although it's algebraically complicated, still you need to know that skill. But in the Desmos graphing calculator, it could give you the value. And as you can see, if I'm going to dot this composition with 1, it will give you 0.866. I hope I can see 1. All right, where is 1? It's here. Okay, so you see it's equivalent to 0.866. So if I'm going to dot it, or probably I can put 1 and 0.866. And I would like to label it. It doesn't show, but in any case, that would be the point for your value. Dot it and you would see, even if whatever value you would be thinking of, okay, it will give you the value. Negative 2 will be here. It's actually at 0. All right. Now, even I can also compose g of f. So let's say g function of x. And that's the graph when you're composing g of x. It's also a radical expression. So I can even evaluate it, g function of, let's say, negative 2. And it gives you 0. Negative 1 gives you positive 6. So negative 1 gives us positive 6, which is actually that. Okay, so whatever you can think of, just write the two equations on your Desmos graphing calculator and start composing. If you're curious about the graph, put first an x. If you're curious, or meaning to say, if you're answering a test, just find the equation that corresponds to this graph. Okay, and you can find it by means of the values of x and y that actually hits your graph. You can find the answers using a graphic calculator. So let's say you have this. So first is you need to put your y1 in your f into the y1 and your g into the y2. Now if you're curious, so what is the graph? You see, you can see the graph here. Now if you're curious, what is the graph of the composed function using this graphing calculator, all you have to do is to change this x with this. So you go to y3, and then you go alpha y equals, and then enter, and then put 3 in the numerator, and in the denominator you have the square root of, okay, you should change your x with 30 over x plus 2. You go again with the alpha y equals, and then enter, put 30 over x plus 2. And then go out, and then add 2. And the graph will show the same thing as what we can see in our Desmos graphing calculator. And so therefore, if you're evaluating 1, all you got to do is to go to second graph, and we're trying to find 1 in our third function, sorry for that, second graph, and go to 1. And you would see that your composition function is 0.866. You can use using the table, or you can do this too. I go to second mode and finding it in the clear screen of your calculator. You go to vars, and then you go to y vars, enter. Since I'm composing y1 to y2, I will enter y1, and then parentheses, do not forget that. Go to vars again, and then y vars, and then enter function, and then go to y2. Enter, and then another parenthesis, put the value 1, and then close it. Remember, when you open a parenthesis, you close it too. And then enter, the answer is also 0.866. Meaning to say, for whatever reason, I can always compose. Let's say, for example, I would like to evaluate composing it with 3. I cannot compose it with negative 2. Looking at the equation, I cannot use negative 2 because it makes the denominator 0, therefore making it undefined. So if I'm going to compose it with negative 2, you will get an error. So let's say I will compose with positive 3. So we go to second graph, and you would see that at 3, I will have 1.0607. So if I will do it with the clear screen, I would have to do vars, and then go to y vars, and then enter y1, go again to vars, go to y vars, function, and then go to y2. By the way, I have to put a parenthesis first. Okay, parenthesis, vars. Okay, if you don't do that, it'll give you an error. So y vars, enter, and then go to y2, enter. Put again another parenthesis. I will use 3, and then the answer will be the same as what you see in your second graph at 3. And that would be it in terms of using the technology to compose function.